The following podcast is a proud member of the Blue Collar Roots Network. Find all the shows by visiting bluecollarroots.com. He may seem like a mild-mannered engineer until you install an HVAC system improperly. Then the whole turning green Hulk shirt-ripping thing happens, and it's not pretty. Here's Bill Spohn.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Building HVAC Science Podcast. It's our goal here to create better, more knowledgeable HVAC and building performance techs, and this episode really weaves those two topics together pretty nicely. If after listening you like what you heard today and you're not subscribed to the podcast, please consider doing so by typing Building HVAC Science in the search bar of any of the typical podcast services. So listeners to this podcast know it's often very hard to explain what it is we do. When I try to explain this, people's eyes and ears glaze over as I get into the technical descriptions of the invisible elements that make a home more comfortable, safer, healthier, and energy efficient. What if there are an independent third-party means to capture and make visible the values that we build into high-performance homes and retrofits? So in this episode, co-founders Cynthia Adams and Robin Lebaron join us to explain how Pearl certification is truly transforming the housing market. They're on a mission to make visible the invisible aspects that contractors know about, the elements that make all the difference in the comfort, health, safety, resilience, and energy efficiency of a home. And they're doing this through a qualified network of elite contractors and real estate professionals. These professionals are trained and they know that working on a home performance will ensure Pearl certified homes are properly marketed and valued. Now, this isn't a one and done effort. As your customers continue to improve their homes, they continue to get credit for these improvements over time in updated reports. The value of a high performing home becomes visible for the consumer, for your customer, your homeowner at the time of appraisal for refinance or sale. This is a nationwide network for homeowners and the businesses that serve them, with 45,695 homes Pearl certified so far as the date of this recording. I really encourage you to learn more about becoming a Pearl certification contractor. There's a link in the show notes. There's also information for homeowners too. I've recently had my home certified to gold standard. That's only because I was lacking details to get it to the platinum level. Really crossing my fingers I make it to platinum. And we've had guests from Pearl join us before on the podcast, so you can get kind of a perspective here. They've been at it for a while. Episode 14 is called Carfax for Homes with Bethany Professor and Amy Belay. That was back in January 2018. And episode 18 is Habitat X Reflections with Robin LeBaron. That was back in July of 2018. This episode was recorded in April 2021. Let me stop talking and have you listen in as Cynthia and Robin explain Pearl certification. Today, we found a Pearl, or a couple of Pearls, or we'll talk about Pearl. Cynthia Adams and Robin LeBaron, welcome back to the Building HVAC Science Podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Bill. It's great to be here.
People may recall we've had Bethany and Amy on from Pearl before, and we talked about Carfax for Home, and that was back in episode 14 in 2018. And Robin's had an interesting conversation with us about Habitat X right after that happened in 2018, in July of 2018. That was episode 25. So we're going to recap for anyone who might be a new listener. And maybe I'll ask first Cynthia to describe what is Pearl certification.
Pearl certification is both a network and a certification system for high-performing homes. The network part applies to the service professionals whom we qualify to be able to use our platform to bring their homeowner customers more value. They do that in two ways. One is by virtue, first of all, belonging to the network. We're not a pay-to-play. The credentials of the contractor are really important to join the network. We only accept the top 5% of contractors nationwide. But the second part, and the part that those who've heard of Pearl before are most familiar with, is really the certification system itself. And in that sense, we not only verify and certify high-performing features in homes, which range from HVAC to the building shell to base load to solar, But we also look at the quality of the installation, and we think it's important to monitor your energy use over time. So there's different components to the Pearl system besides just an asset-based approach for identifying high-performing features and certifying them in the home.
Very good. Robin, why don't you take me back a little bit? How did this idea for Pearl start?
So, all of us in the energy efficiency, home performance, HVAC industries know that we do wonderful work in the house and we make a profound difference to the average homeowner. We not only reduce bills, but we increase comfort, we increase health, particularly through indoor air quality, which of course has been rather topical lately. And the problem is that when you, Mr. Spohn, as the owner of an amazing high performing home, go to sell, there is a really good chance that the buyer will not fully recognize or understand what it is that they're purchasing. Now, to be fair, this may be a little bit different in your case since you are the owner of a home that has been made famous through a variety of media. But for most people who just had a regular home performance upgrade, all that stuff is going to be invisible. What the buyers will see, we all know this, is going to be the 2-car garage or the 3-car garage and the pool and the famous granite countertops. And it's not going to be the amazing heat pump system or the fact that the ducts were sealed or that there was air sealing and there's R60 insulation in the attic. So Pearl's basic mission is to change that. Cynthia and I both entered the energy efficiency industry in the ARA days, so back in a previous stimulus, and we were both brought on explicitly to solve the problem of scale, or to help think through the problem of how to bring energy efficiency to scale. We labored in the trenches. We worked collaboratively together from very different positions for a couple of years and really enjoyed that relationship. And we ended up, after, I would say, a 4 or 5 year period, both feeling that we had a solution to the problem of how you bring energy efficiency to scale. And it was, to go back to what Cynthia said, to make the value visible at the time of sale. Essentially to make insulation perhaps not quite as sexy as a granite countertop, but at least to give it some sort of veneer of sex appeal. And so Pearl is essentially just the drive to make value visible, to make the value of high-performing homes visible. Not just energy efficiency, but high-performing homes.
And the timeline here is like 2008, 2009, entering the industry. And what date did Pearl really coalesce and become an entity and start to do work? What year was that?
Robin and I jumped ship from our previous employment gigs to Pearl in May of 2015 after we raised our first angel round of capital and have been building the team out since then.
And you needed to go after capital because you're doing something that no one else has done before. I'm correct in that?
Yes. Part of it is we are innovative. We are a startup company and we're not eligible for grant funding or that sort of thing. Like, we are a for-profit business. So we did raise private capital initially from angel investors. And we now have a venture capital firm called Clean Energy Ventures out of Boston who led our Series A round. And they're very mission aligned with what we're doing for them. The ability to incentivize homeowners to make more energy efficiency and renewable energy improvements is absolutely critical as to why we got funding from them in the first place.
And you'd mentioned service providers. So to me, that broadens the scope of the discussion. So there must be a list of, or can you think of the number of service providers that provide these asset value enhancements for properties, for homes?
Bill, I could answer that question in a different way. I see Cynthia about to jump in, but I want to go back to your previous question too, because there's just to layer on what Cynthia said. One reason we didn't get venture funding, or we did, is that when you think about it, some types of startups, it's some dude or dudette sitting in the garage who knows how to program, and they invent this wonderful program thing. As it happened, neither Cynthia nor I were coders. So there was some basic capital needed for software, just as kind of a baseline. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is the one that you're just getting to, which is that what we're really talking about is a project of market transformation. And it's profound, and it hits multiple markets at the same time. So bad enough just to transform one market, but we are simultaneously trying to transform contracting and several verticals within residential contracting, HVAC, home performance, shell, solar, and stuff we'll talk about later. And we're simultaneously working with the real estate community and the appraiser community. And we certainly, before the end of this, need to engage with the underwriting lending community as well. And I'm sure Cynthia's going to chime in on a couple I haven't thought of, but we're really trying to affect change in major established industries simultaneously, because that's really what it takes to get this virtuous cycle in motion.
And people listening to the podcast probably are involved in this market transformation in one way or another and not realize it. And you're providing a point of nucleation, perhaps, for these efforts, for a lot of good work that's going on around the country in a place to sort of get credit for the work you're doing and the beliefs that you have as an individual contractor.
Bill, we should really add to that, which is that I think Cynthia and I, when we came into the industry, I'll speak for me, not her, but felt we were standing on the shoulders of giants. We say we are trying to do this thing, and we are, but we can only do it because of so many people who have been working on this problem for so long. So you're absolutely right. We're trying to leverage an ocean of work that has been done before and to continue to work. This is a really important point, to continue to work with everybody who's doing amazing work on market transformation.
I think Cynthia's bubbling with a response here.
I would take a slightly different tack to answer the question, although obviously I agree 100% with everything Robin has said. I think one of the ways that we have conceptualized Pearl is as a FICO score for the home. And in that sense, every home should have one. And we can work with every homeowner in order to understand what sorts of things they can do to create the high performing home that is efficient, comfortable, has good indoor air quality, et cetera, that we all deserve. From that perspective, as we think about our certification system expanding over time to include things like water efficiency and indoor air quality and resilience, there are a number of other contractor trades that touch different aspects of the house. And so over time, we will bring those trades also into the network. And over time, we will be able to meet the homeowner wherever they are. Is your concern that you want to have your mom move in at some point and you need to be thinking about aging in place? Well, there's an energy efficiency angle with that, but there's also durability, there's safety, there's smart home features. There's a lot of opportunity to engage broadly both the new construction and the home improvement market outside of home performance, HVAC, solar, et cetera, which is sort of our go-to-market first focus. And so we have our eyes on a longer term vision, but at the moment understand that like with any business, you need to establish your core clientele, make sure you're doing right by them, and build from there.
And you've been working away at this since 2015. So what's been the progress? Maybe first we'll talk about the contractor groups. So what did it look like in 2015? What does it look like today? Maybe that's there's paperwork, there's forms, there's some kind of report, there's engagement. What's going on that's different?
Well, we have a team for one thing. In 2015, it was just Robin and myself and about 6 months of runway. We didn't even have the right coders to help us create the platform in the first place. But our product has evolved. We added solar to it. I think the most important addition actually happened not quite even a year ago. And that was we created a true multi-sided platform where we now have a portal called Green Door that homeowners can use to access their home's record. They can create recommended improvements. They can engage with Pearl around a home investment plan. They can find other service professionals who can make improvements for things that maybe their original contractor doesn't touch. So we've really expanded the platform itself to be multi-sided, and we've expanded the kinds of products that we can offer to contractors to help them create a sticky, long-term relationship with that customer so they are able to get the full lifetime value out of their initial investment of time in that initial sale. So team, product, and I think we'd be remiss not to mention the industry partners that we've been able to move out of the realm of, gee, wouldn't it be great if so-and-so understood what Pearl was and supported it, to, hey, how about we co-sponsor a conference together? So our relationships with trade organizations like ACCA and NCI have evolved. We have a relationship with the National Association of Realtors. We have some major manufacturer programs that we'll be announcing in the next couple of months that will be national in scope. So a lot of growth there in terms of our business partnerships and business development, as well as the product and the team. And Robin, what have I left out? Because certainly there's something over the last 5 years.
I thought that was fantastic. Let's leave it at that. I think that's a great set of highlights. Or maybe we should just mention the core thing, which was the very first thing we built, which is this attractive certification report that details the features of the home in color and essentially provides the missing link by serving as marketing materials for all of the unsexy things that we talked about previously. It not only says that there's a high-performing HVAC system in the home or attic insulation, but it explains what those things are, why a home buyer would be interested in them, and what they do. We're exploring ways to think about what value, specific monetary value they would add to the home. But that's really our core product, is just providing that missing link of communication about the high-performing home to the buyer. Otherwise, I thought Cynthia's list was perfect.
And in order to create that report, who collects the data and where does it reside? And are there multiple parties collecting the data?
So It varies according to the customer. Most of the certifications are developed by contractors who are in the Pearl certification network, and they are giving us data in different flavors, and we are transforming that to the certification report. To answer your questions, it flows through API or through our certification app into our database, and within seconds, we have generated a certification report. People always ask, so we'll add that there is a quality control layer on top of that. Casey Murphy, who's probably familiar to many listeners, does a certification by certification review for new contractors just to make sure that everything's okay. Gradually, we move to a more automated system. But there are two things that we should add to this about data. One is that data is a really dirty word for a lot of people in our industry for a variety of reasons. One of the things that we felt we had to solve was making this simple, which is why I brought it up in the first place. So contractors have the option to enter more or less data. Our theory is that any information about a high-performing home is valuable at time of sale, even if it's to just know that the attic was properly insulated and the home was air sealed. That should be communicated to the buyer, and for many buyers, that should make a difference to the sale price. So you can enter more or less information according to what you have and what you want your clients to be able to communicate to their eventual home buyers. And then the other side of the data pipeline is a much more sophisticated real estate side where somebody will call up Pearl and say, hey, I have a home that's, for whatever reason, high performing. It was built to the Bill Spohn specification, and we would like to get it certified. In that case, we send out a certifier. They do an attic to cellar inspection. They collect an immense amount of detail about the home, and they run it through our engine, and we generate a certification report. But the only difference between that and the contractor one is in the quantity of detail provided, and the fact that if you hit a certain level of data and you have a certain number of high-performing features in the home, you may hit a Pearl, Silver, Gold, or Platinum level.
Okay. So there are levels to the report to describe the home and its performance aspects.
I just jump in here for a quick moment. One of the things that Robin and I learned through the work that we had done previously was that the vision that many in the energy efficiency space had for the vertically integrated contractor was more of a vision than it was a reality. Homeowners didn't conceive of deep energy retrofits. They conceived of a comfort problem or a high bill complaint. Contractors, they may have multiple lines of business, but their lines of business had a kind of consistency and continuity that made sense for their particular trade. And we felt like it was really important to create a system that could meet the industry where it is, not just the homeowners where they are, but the contractors where they are. So if I, as an HVAC contractor, go in and seal up the ducts and switch out some units, and that's all I do, that's great. We're glad the homeowner had that opportunity to improve that system. If the homeowner, though, then wants to engage an installation contractor or replace a water heater, then that contractor can access the home's record and update that specific component of the house. So the system is set up with different permissioning. You can't touch other contractors' data. You can't see other contractors' information or proposals or anything like that. It's very compartmentalized so that we can allow as many contractors as is needed for the homeowner to engage with in order to, again, achieve that high-performing home that they deserve.
So what's it look like for a contractor to become engaged and to become is there a name for like a Pearl contractor, or do you have a label for them, or?
We call them partners.
Pearl partners, okay.
Yeah, Pearl Network partners. Their success is our success. And so while we do have a B2B relationship with our customers, we do conceive of them as partners, and we have a whole success department whose sole job is to ensure that those contractors are successful using Pearl in the sale and are seeing their close rates increase, are seeing the ability to upsell to higher tickets. All of the promises that we make to contractors, we have a whole success department that is devoted to making those promises real, supporting contractors to achieve that.
And does a contractor, how do they become involved? They contact you? Do they have to provide some credential information or some history, or?
Yes, when they contact us, our partnership representative will speak with them about their business. We'll do some sleuthing around on their customer service stats. Do they have good ratings, good reviews? We will talk with them about what kinds of certifications their technicians may have or may not have. Are they industry leaders? What other things do they do, either in their community or with respect to engaging trade organizations and the like? How else can we come to know this company and what they value, what they stand for? And there is some Q&A involved in the initial discovery process. That's important for contractors as well. They have a bunch of questions about Pearl. We have questions about them. And if we get to the end of that first conversation and feel like there's a good fit here, then we're happy to continue the conversation and talk more.
Is there a cost for contractors?
Yes. You can think of us as a SaaS-like business. We call it certification as a service, and contractors pay a monthly fee, a flat rate fee, that is roughly tied to their volume. So the more work you're doing, then you get a discount. But the pricing is really, really reasonable. It runs typically anywhere from $20 on the low end to $60 on the high end per install on average. So it's an incremental amount that the contractor would add to their installations. And contractors certify all of the work that they do. They're not cherry picking it for a few jobs here and there. It's not up to the customer to decide whether or not they want a certification. One of the main values to contractors is being able to leverage that halo effect that comes with being a part of this network in order to help establish confidence from their homeowners side of things that they're going to deliver a quality and superior service, and it's worth paying more for it. So part of that equation then is we certify all the work that we do. We belong to a national high-performing home certification network, and that is relevant to homeowners. In fact, we do a survey for every one of the certifications that we issue, meaning a homeowner gets a certification and 24 hours later they get a survey questionnaire from Pearl. And what we found is that 85% of the homeowners say that Pearl certification was a factor for them in choosing this contractor and choosing to do this work. So they may not have heard about Pearl certification before the contractor walks in the door, but it's meaningful to them, it matters to them, and it impacts their purchasing decisions.
There must be some strong contractor benefits. I'm hearing some contractor benefits here. How about consumer benefits? Because this has to be conveyed by the contractor to the consumer, or what benefits the consumer here? Maybe, Robin.
Here's one thing to add to what Cynthia was saying that goes directly to your question. I think another reason that we talk about contractors in the network as partners is because they are really crucial to the future of this country, and we want to support them. So our analysis of the contracting industry is that, technically speaking, it really sucks. And there are a lot of not very good contractors out there. But when you dive into that, you can't put all the blame on the contracting industry. It is a race to the bottom. It's a tough job to be a contractor. And the real challenge is that there isn't necessarily enough demand for quality work. Take my mother, Ms. Lebaron, who's been instructed by Consumer Reports to get free bids, so she does. And then she's struggling to figure out which of these 3 bids should I take. And let's just say that there's a Pearl Network contractor in the mix, and they have offered what is clearly a superior proposal. There's all sorts of technical detail on it that the other proposals don't have. Wonderful talk about what the equipment is going to do, how it's going to solve the problems, but it's $4,000. The price point is $4,000 higher. And my mother's like, I don't know. Am I just being sold a bill of goods? Or is this stuff real? Which one should I go with? And there's so many consumers will opt for the lower price point because they don't really know about the other stuff, but they do know about price. We really want to support the contractors who are doing the high quality work. And it's again a case of trying to lift all of the boats with the tide. So a big piece of this is a long way to get around to your conversation is to help consumers find the right contractors who will do the right work. That's the real ultimate benefit. That's one of the 2 ultimate benefits for the consumer. Find the right contractor and then ensure that that contractor's work is valued when they sell the home. There are other pieces, but
That's part of the network.
That's right.
Okay. Do you advertise or communicate directly with consumers at all?
We've dipped our toe in those waters, and it's certainly something that we want to continue to expand over time, in part to do more co-op marketing with our existing network. So we ran a mini campaign, a social campaign, where the messaging to homeowners was finding a high quality contractor. And we actually had a tremendous response, both for HVAC and solar. Hundreds of homeowners hit our page. Now, this was a trial. So part of what we learned in that trial was when you ask homeowners then to set up a green door account so that they can ask the contractors through that, we had probably 3 too many steps that we wanted homeowners to do in terms of giving us information and telling us about their house and all this other stuff. And the homeowner, hey, I was clicking this link to find out about a contractor. Now you want to know all this stuff about me. So we've retooled that landing page and we'll be relaunching it with the ability for homeowners to just directly find contractors in our network who can service their needs. And I'll be excited to report back on what those results are once we relaunch. So yes, we think that there is a direct-to-consumer opportunity that will, again, inspire confidence in homeowners to leverage our platform to find contractors who can do work for them. And I'll note that we currently don't charge for lead gen. That's just a part of what you get when you pay the SaaS fee.
The monthly fee. So are there any hotspots across the country where this is being taken up with enthusiasm, this concept?
We have strong contractor networks in Arizona, in Virginia, in Western Michigan, increasingly in California, and I think the Smile States, the Sunshine States, will emerge as really strong areas for Pearl in the coming years. But to a little bit lesser extent, strong networks in Boston, the Boston area, and the New York area as well.
Can you talk about some of the partnerships that you have with some of the other organizations and affiliates and maybe help people round out their place in the mind where Pearl sits?
I'll start, but this is definitely Robin and I can hand the mic back and forth on this one because there are many. The one that I think makes Pearl unique is our relationship with the National Association of Realtors. We were one of 9 companies out of over 330 that were selected to participate in their technology accelerator for real estate. And NAR actually made an investment in Pearl at the time. In November of last year, we signed an agreement with the Green Resource Council of NAR. And this is the group that oversees all of the green designees. A green designation is a special designation you can earn from NAR as a real estate agent. That means that you have been educated on high-performing home features, the different types of scores, certifications, and labels that are out there, how to market these homes in the multiple listing service, things like that. So the relationship that we have with the Green Resource Council is to provide a special program for their green designees. And so we can leverage these thousands of real estate agents across the US as we go into new markets, as we start to sign up new contractor customers in new regions, so that that contractor can with confidence represent to their homeowner customer that if you work with me and you get the certification and decide to sell your house at some point down the road, there will be an agent here locally or agents who understand how to sell a certified home, how to ensure that you can get maximum value for your property. So that relationship with NAR is very much a part of this market transformation. Pearl is the only certification that actually services the homeowner through different service professionals at the whole home ownership life cycle, from ownership to sell to purchase. I think that our value add is on the real estate side happens alongside of the value adds that we bring to contractors. So with that, I'll hand the mic over to Robin, and you may want to speak some about our special partnership with the HVAC trades.
And there's manufacturers, and I was actually thinking of appraisers, just to bookend yours. So I'll start there and note that we are, the Appraisal Institute has licensed us to complete their green and energy efficient addendum, which we have seen as a very crucial stopgap tool to ensure that high-performing homes are properly valued. We're now working with them and other folks in the appraisal industry on legislation, which we hope will go through the infrastructure bill and will help ensure that both the high-performing homes, both efficient homes and homes with solar, are properly appraised at time of sale. It's a really crucial point for us. So engaging with the appraisal community and also trying to build out a network of appraisers who can be relied upon to deliver competent appraisals of high-performing homes is also crucial for us. And Cynthia is right that we have been engaging in partnerships with a number of the organizations in the HVAC and home performance industry that probably all listeners know and love. ACA and NCI come to mind and are very important for us and very good partners. And to go back to that theme of trying to improve U.S. contracting in America, we love those as partnerships because we share the same mission of supporting contractors both in doing higher quality work and in being rewarded for that high quality work.
Is there a place someone can see an example report or something that has to do with an example property to drive this home? Like I could put a link in the show notes or something like that.
Yeah, you can go to our website and we have sample reports there. We can share that out with you, Bill.
And in terms of our contractors, can you see the engaged contractors on your website? Is that part of the network? Are they shown or do they present that themselves?
So much like many businesses, we don't list all of our customers out there, but we do have success stories from some recognizable names who've used Pearl in the past and some video testimonials to go with that. So
how about the electrification movement, solar? How is that impacting the work that you're doing or the kind of contractors that are coming on board?
That is a great question. As we said, we were very energy efficiency focused when we started. And honestly, Cynthia may not have had this joke, but I was kind of the mindset that back in 2008, that you install solar panels on your roof and then you pay for them through energy efficiency measures. And it's interesting that that entire economic calculus has been absolutely upended in the last 12 years. That's no longer a joke that means anything, which is a large way of saying that the economics of solar have become so much more favorable for the average homeowner. And with solar, a whole set of ancillary products or supportive, let's say, from batteries to electric cars. There's two pieces here. One of them is that we are moving away from energy efficiency and renewables and solar as terms and moving towards the term high-performing home. And although it sounds technical, it's very important for us because, again, those of us in energy efficiency, we start by thinking about energy efficiency and comfort, and that leads to a conversation about IAQ. And maybe from that, there's some other health-related conversations, radon, for example. But if you think about the gap between the way the average home in the US performs and the way it could perform, it's absolutely stunning. You actually live this dream. Like, you are the showcase for this, but it's just extraordinary, the difference between a high-performing home on all of its dimensions. Adding in the ones we've talked about, there's renewables, there's water efficiency, there's smart devices, there's smart device enablement of interaction with the grid, and we're still just scratching at the surface. So all of this stuff, and the only thing that's more interesting is the tremendous gulf between the top end of the market and the median home, is the fact that consumers don't recognize it. You have a sense that a 1980s Datsun is hopelessly outdated compared to a new model car. Nobody has that same sort of perception of their home, of it being similarly outdated. So we really both want to drive the perception that your home could be so much better than it is right now on so many verticals. And that this changes, a lot of these things are affordable. It's not just a Jetson-like future. And we also want to stress the interrelatedness between all of those pieces.
Sure. And that's what house is a system. I mean, that whole thing. And beyond that, just energy consumption as a system. And high performance does broaden the topic to many facets, which appeal to different people at different levels or to different dimensions. Now, you said this interesting thing about your home could be better. I'd relate this back to something, a conference. Maybe actually you and I were at the same conference, but someone had mentioned, why couldn't there be a place where someone could go experience a high performing home to come back to desire to have that for themselves? Like experiencing a rental car with all the new features, then coming back to your 10-year-old vehicle and saying, I've heard about these things, but now I've experienced it and I want it. How can we cross that gulf? Because I think that's a huge one for consumer awareness and demand.
It's funny. So my last job, I was the executive director of a nonprofit called the Local Energy Alliance Program, otherwise known as LEAP. And we were based in the city of Charlottesville, Virginia. And one of the awesome things that the city of Charlottesville did was they renovated an 1800s home, took it back to the studs, earned LEED certification and a whole host of other certifications in the process of bringing it back up. And we had truth windows for homeowners for people walking through the house to see into the walls, literally. We had placards up all over explaining all of the different energy efficiency bells and whistles. There was solar on the roof. It was quite a thing. And we regularly held neighborhood educational meetings there and invited like the whole community to come in and learn about this, that, and the other. We invited contractors to come and guest present. And that was a terrific resource that was there in that local community. And I don't know how we commercialize something like that. I feel like Pearl in its own way, quote unquote, commercialized programs. And it's actually one of the things that we have to get over when we meet a contractor for the first time is we're not a utility program. We're not a state energy office program. And we have taken a very different approach. But there's value in these other market actors that bring a different perspective and a different mission to the work that they do to continue to help educate homeowners and raise the bar on homeowners valuing a high-performing home.
Any thoughts on that, Robin?
Yeah, one is just to note that people are really interested in the concept of a platinum home. So just having that designation is a really good way to start a conversation, but it doesn't entirely answer your question. I honestly think you, Bill, are showing us an interesting way in this sense. I have loved your Facebook page and the progress reports on the home. I find it's interesting, it's personal, it's engaging.
The ups and the downs.
I think there's a lesson. Yeah. Well, it makes
it's reality,
it very human.
It's life.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we can learn from you on that score.
How does a consumer talking to another consumer, do they ever share the fact that they have a platinum home, or is there something visible beyond the report? Have you ever thought of something along those lines? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, it's interesting. So for a certified home that goes into the real estate transaction, we have a complete marketing package. So that includes placards that the agent can hang up throughout the house. It includes a one sheet overview that distills the high performing features and what they mean to a potential buyer. It includes an MLS listing report that gives them instructions on what particular data fields in their local MLS track to the high performing home features that we've identified in the house. And in that sense, there's a lot of education for consumers that we try to put out there. The Green Door, our consumer app, is probably going to be the hub for that kind of activity. Robin and I have long talked about find a house like mine feature that at some point we're going to build, where I could put in some information like I have a 1980s stick built house. It's 2-story with a basement. And if you put in that kind of information, you can pull back a description of the types of things that a homeowner with a similar home decided to go ahead and do. We haven't built that feature yet, but it is a dream that will become a reality at some point. And I think we can do more to encourage homeowners to share out through their social networks the types of things that they've done and what benefits they've received from them. I'll note that a homeowner can update their home's record through Green Door. So we have this spring in particular seen hundreds of homeowners come back to us and just say, I'm refinancing my house, I'm putting the house in the market. I want to capture my water heater and my appliances, or I did some additional work since the first contractor came in. And they're savvy enough to understand that there's a financial benefit for getting that information out there. And they're willing to give us the right documentation to ensure that their record is up to date. I think it's possible to speak to that urge to value and share out information on my home through other ways, like you've suggested.
Got it. And I know from speaking with Casey Murphy that there is that validation, the photographic or invoices or energy bills, something has to validate each aspect of this. So it isn't just a checklist type certification.
And you get the nice certification report to document what you have. And I think people take pride in that. There are probably other things we could do we've talked about plaques for platinum homes and so on, which feels like a thing. But one thing that I found, speaking of Casey, to be really interesting and heartening this quarter is the quality of the homeowner feedback we get. Because again, think about it from a mission perspective. The end point of all of this market transformation is to drive consumer behavior and change it. And what we really want them to do is to do something that Cynthia referenced earlier, which is to think about their home as an evolving improvement project and to understand that the end point is, again, so much better than it could be. And I think our big question, particularly in launching Green Door, has been, will consumers actually engage with this? Will they care? Will they go back? Will they be excited about improvement projects? Will they be excited about leveling up from silver to gold to platinum? And it's been really interesting to see that the answer is absolutely yes. People get excited about it. They call Casey. This is why I thought about it. And they say, so help me get to gold. They're really interested in it. Now, this is obviously, if you think about the spectrum of adoption, these are the tinkerers and the early adopters. But I think that behavior and mentality will spill over in different ways to other segments of the market. It's appealing to people once they understand. A big part of the Pearl Challenge is to provide people with the tools so they do understand.
You've got a product people want, but they don't know they want it because they don't really understand it perhaps or know it exists. And that's your challenge is the communication, crossing that gulf of communication. Very good. Well, that's why we're communicating today. Hey, right? Huh?
Absolutely.
Good. Cool. Any closing thoughts so we can give the listeners back their ears and have them go research this and get active?
My closing thought would be for contractors, and I'll say this as briefly as I know how. What we know about Pearl is that it works and that you can afford it. We're in 30 different states. We have anecdotal evidence all over the place that homeowners find value in it, buyers find value in it. We know that it works. The second thing that I would say is that you can afford it. Again, the incremental cost for certification on a job is not something that a homeowner would choose to reject a proposal over. It is something that they would choose you as a contractor in order to have. Whether or not we're a good fit for you as a contractor, depending upon where you are in your business evolution, how sophisticated you are with technology or marketing or all that other stuff, is a conversation that we can have. But you can go into that conversation knowing the 2 points that I just made.
Got it.
I was going to say Cynthia should have the last word, but actually what came to my mind fits well as a bookend to her. And my guess is that the listeners to your podcast, Bill, share a tremendous amount of mission and passion about the same things we do. So I just want to emphasize the extent to which we think about this as a partnership. We have a set of really big, challenging problems that I think all of us, you, the listening community, and Pearl want to solve. And it's a bigger problem than all of us, so we want to do it together. We think we have built some really neat tools that can help. But again, we think about this as a big industry-wide partnership, and we really look forward to working with some of your listeners to help make that happen. And we do want to thank you for your catalytic role in pulling this all together.
Oh, you're very welcome. The web address is, please give that to me.
pearlcertification.com, PEARL certification.com.
Very good. And we'll have that in the show notes too. Maybe some links that go in depth into your website so people can pull up quickly the sample reports and the contractor success stories and things like that, things we've spoken about here today. Wonderful seeing you again, because I can see them, but the listeners can't. They're smiling faces. And look forward to having you back for an update as we go down the road a little bit further.
Thanks so much, Bill. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
It really was. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Well, thank you for listening to this podcast. We hope you grasped the vision that Cynthia and Robin have and the passion which they have for pursuing this vision. Our quote for today relates to that. It's by Jonathan Swift. Vision is the art of seeing what is invisible to others. We have a lot of other great trade-related resources and influencers out there. The HVACR School, HVAC Shop Talk, Stephen Reardon, HVAC Reefer Guy, Service Business Mastery, Tool Pros, HVAC Overtime, HVACR videos, HomeDiagnosis.tv, and of course, all the good things happening over at MeasureQuick. The Building HVAC Science podcast is a production of TruTech Tools Limited, and I am a co-owner of TruTech. The opinions voiced here are those of my guests or myself, depending on who is speaking, of course. If you're in the market for some of the tools or test instruments that we talk about in some of these episodes, take a look at TruTechTools.com, TruTechTools.com, and use the offer code HVACBS for a nice discount. Thank you for listening and following us in the Building HVAC Science podcast. We're also on Facebook for some other info and things we find interesting. We want to thank you for listening again and have a great day. And we hope you learned something about throwing shade on your competition by working with Pearl Certification for HVAC. Take care, everyone.